How do you like this? The costume changes, the location changes. It's nice that these young women who are carrying around drinks and food and, just smiling at you, that two or three of them at a time will come into my cabin and change me. I mean, it's the kind of attention to detail that makes cruising what cruising is. Okay, CFO services, the wrap up. Another reason I was able to retain these people is I took them on trips. The first one was to an all-inclusive resort with the weird name Bolongo. Okay. That trip, we were fairly new. We had about 15 people. I have a green and brown leather pair of hiking boots that I bought from LL Bean ages ago. That's the footwear that I wore for the entire week we were there. So that started kind of a trend. So every picture you see me in, all in shorts at the green booth, a good look. We went to Vegas one time, and the deal there was I was gonna get $1,000 in $1 coins, and whatever we won, we would split evenly. And so after the first tray was run through, a tray of 100 $1 coins, after the first tray was run through, I very quietly said, "Give me another hot tray," which is what I yelled after every tray. "Give me another hot tray." We didn't win any money. Also, I had, and to a degree still have, a talent for, a talent for adding up as numbers words. Quick example, dog, D-O-G. That's 4 plus 15 is 19 plus 7 is 26. Huh? D is the fourth letter in the alphabet. O is the 15th, and G is the 7th. D-O-G adds to 26. So, we're in Vegas, and we've rented a trolley like Omaha's Ali the Trolley. And we're rolling up on these streets like Tropicana Boulevard. And Jeff Lamb, the aforementioned salesman, very wildly outgoing dude, would holler out, "Phil, Tropicana Boulevard." And I'd go, 118. And Lamb would crap himself laughing. And every once in a while, somebody would say, "How do we know you're not completely making this up?" And I said, "Test one." Go right ahead. I took him snow skiing. I'm having trouble finding my stinking cursor. I never said this would be professional. Where'd my cursor go? This is there. There you are. Okay. We went snow skiing as a group, and lastly, we had a plan to go on a Disney cruise. And my least favorite employee, because she was always bitching that she didn't get enough, was a gal named Marcia. And I announced this plan for this Disney trip, and it's going to be fabulous. And Marcia says, well, I doubt I'll be married at that point. Can I bring somebody with me? Well, the way it was said, it came off poorly. And to Chad and to John, that's Marcia, still there, by the way. Another outing as a group. Downtown Omaha had a dance venue called the Max. And the Max was a gay dance club, and it was right next door to one of the 3 apartments I lived in downtown. So we went there and danced the night away and had a great old time. One point fairly early on in CFO Services history, I wanted an office in the central part of the state, merely because I was tired of living out of Super 8s. So I picked a spot on the map that I could drive to at night within an hour or so. That ended up being Arcadia. There was enough business within that circle that it made sense. That was one reason to do it. Then I got a hint from a young banker. I was driving a Honda Accord, and that banker told me, Phil, people know you're coming when you drive that car. Nobody out here drives a car that's something other than Ford, Chevy, Chrysler, Buick, a GM maker Ford. They don't drive Honda Accords, and they are not going to welcome you. Oh, okay. So, Dodge had just come out with the brand new and beautifully grilled Dodge Ram pickups. And I bought myself one of like the first 3 delivered in Omaha. It was a dark blue. Dennis, who was driving us at that time, dubbed it Bonnie Blue. And a year later, they came out with a 4-door version that I got in forest green. That one I don't recall having a name. This was popular. At one point, on a Saturday, we got in $200,000 of checks from the Nebraska Department of Revenue. If you remember that P.O. Box thing, power of attorney, those checks would come to us, we'd divvy them up. So I brought them home to Sherry and said, this isn't going to happen all that often. We need to do something. And what we came up with, the Huskers tunnel walk for the football team is, the music used to be Sirius from the Alan Parsons Project, S-I-R-I-U-S. And so we put together a video with Sirius blaring in the background, and every time it went, dum, I'd lift the check up, put it out, and throw it over here. That was funny. Not, or funnier than I just made it. Reference letters are something you always want from your clients. And I did too. What I did that was unusual, I think, I wrote the reference letter that I wanted to receive from them. and meaning I needed a reference letter that covered how much time the client had to take out of their life to get our paperwork ready to review. And so I would write a letter from Joe Blow Business, and it would say, "Dear whomever," and generic obviously, I just finished working with CFO Services. And I can't say enough about them. They did such a marvelous job. And one of the things was they promised it wouldn't take much of my time. And it didn't. And I'd give them that reference letter saying, if this kind of summarizes your thoughts, please put it on your letterhead and we'll use it. If it doesn't, feel free to write your own or not write one at all. I literally never had a client that I asked to write one of my reference letters say no. Never. And all the reference letters you would see are black and white photocopies, except mine were taken to a color printer shop and reproduced in color. So when we'd lay a wad of reference letters in front of a company, nobody ever asked, why do you, but it looked like these companies were giving us 24 reference letters at a time. A nice move. A quick hitter. Dennis and I, Uncle Denna, were in Scottsbluff one night, and I was having cherry pie. And as I'm looking down, putting my fork into the pie, a stream of blood just comes running out of my nostril. And there again, Dennis just lost it. I know you had to be there. Oh. Once again, because it's all we did, all I did, I had figured out things that nobody else had figured out. One of them was you were in an industry that qualified for this LB 775 big program if you were a retailer selling to a qualifying industry. So trucking, or just transportation in general, was one of the industries that would qualify for LB 775. And retailers who sold to them also were in an industry that qualified, meaning truck stops. And so I told my friend Lee Sapp about it, Sapp Brothers Truck Stops, and Lee was one of the 4 owners, he and his 3 brothers. And I told him about this, and he said, "Phil, that doesn't work. Our CPA firm, Arthur Anderson, one of the big 8, has already told us, because we asked him." And I said, well, I had brought along this section of the law, and I showed him. And I said, "Lee, kind of a no brag, just fact. I'm the only practitioner in the state who knows this piece." And he went, "Holy shit, Phil. I can see exactly what you're talking about. I'll go talk to my brother Bill, who ran the day-to-day operations." Well, 2 days later, I have an appointment with Brother Bill, and Brother Bill says to me, "Phil, I know this will sound funny, but this is just the way it happened. Yesterday, our accounting firm called, and they just totally out of the blue, unsolicited, said, hey, we figured out you qualify. We want to come out and do a big project on that. And I thought, you slimy piece of shit. Obviously, his accounting firm knew nothing until I pointed out to the Sapp brothers. And we were new as a company, and that would have been a fee well over $100,000. The thing that bothered me more than anything, I mean, it bothered me we weren't going to do the work and he had screwed us, but Brother Bill was known nationwide for putting chapels in their truck stops. What a spiritual man. But he'll screw you over a dollar. And years later, my friend Lee Sapp said, Phil, Brother Bill just screwed you. And he lied about the CPA firm, and in fact, the CPA firm did it for almost nothing because Bill, says, how can this one-man band over here be smarter than you people? Oh, well. Okay. Here is a story of the dumbest thing anybody has ever said to me. And I mean that by a long shot. And it was uttered by Grandma Sherry. And what she said was, I would like it better if you didn't work here. What she was saying was, or the background, I was in the process of trying to raise $7 million to take this economic development concept nationally via a subscription-based website. So you'd log into CFO Services website, and you need to know, what does Kentucky have? And we'd have all this information. So I'm at lunch with Sherry and one other employee, don't remember who, doesn't matter. And Sherry says, Phil, if that new deal works, would you office out of CFO like you do now, or would there be a new office you would move to? And I said, well, almost undoubtedly the new office, but why do you ask? And she said, I would like it better if you didn't work here. Now, this is after she had divorced me, and it was 3 years after that I let her continue working and developing some skills and get paid nicely. I would like it better if you didn't work here. Okay, so I have all these things that Sherry coulda, shoulda said to me. Phil, thank you for employing me when I was unemployable otherwise, darling Phil. I was making $4,000 per year, working less than 20 hours per week, primarily doing bulletin boards at St. Wenceslaus. Very referenceable skills. Oh, and thank you for going from a salary of $10,507 a year at the IRS to where we are today by working your ass off and taking risks, letting me stay at home raising kids and giving me the lifestyle you've given me, which was way more than any of my friends, and for letting me work at CFO for 3 years after our divorce, which was your idea, not mine, just like most ex-husbands do. And for giving me not 2 weeks notice and I'm gone, but 90 days to find a new job after I said the dumbest thing you've ever heard. Oh, and thank you for financing the boys' house and not even asking me to pay half of all those costs, even though after the divorce, I was in the top 5% income of single moms in the United States. And you were also paying a chunk of child support. And I know that I gave you a list 5 years ago, heck, 7, 8 years ago now, and I said, you need to fix these things. And you did. Every single thing that I had a problem with, you changed and you fixed them. And, you know, you still loved me. Even after I said, why don't you stick your list where the sun don't shine? The first thing on your list was read the Omaha World Herald every day so we have something to talk about. And I thought, what a completely unreasonable demand. Yeah. You and me, baby, we were a great team. Sure. I digressed just a bit, and there's from the CFO services thing. I went on a small rant there, and there's more to come about Sherry later on. The famous Valentino's family meal deal. I don't really have enough time to do it the classic way, but I was going to be in Scottsbluff for 2 nights working, and there was a Valentino's there, and I got the Val's family meal deal, which, because I figured half today, half tomorrow night. The family meal deal included a medium 1-topping pizza, 2 liters of Coke, a family-sized salad, breadsticks, cinnamon breadsticks, and I think there was a 5th thing. I ate it all night 1, a harbinger of obesity to come. Okay, last topic. From Nebraska, we expanded into Oklahoma and Kansas. Oklahoma, particularly for some weird reason, had some pretty massive fees. One was Newell Coach, and coach meant like buses, but RV type buses. They would get in a bus chassis, back then would cost about $500,000, and then they would outfit it to the customer's specifications. The average sale of a coach was $800,000. And again, this is 30 years ago. 800,000 then is today's what, $1.5 million? So they had one of the coolest businesses I'd ever seen. And I got my 5-year carryover deal, which went swimmingly. I had another manufacturer whose name has just escaped me down there in Oklahoma. And I called it, we did the work, our fee was 50 grand or more. His share was 50 grand or more. And I called him up to set an appointment to come down and do the 5-year carryover work. And he says, what 5-year carryover? And I said, well, take a look at your contract. The third paragraph says we can come in and update this stuff every year for 5 years. And he said, oh, I guess I missed that in your sales call. Okay. So here's the guy who was going to pay us another boatload of money over the next 5 years, had ethics, unlike Bill Sapp, and said, you know, this is the simplest thing I've ever read, and he let us do our work. Then I had an oil equipment distributor, also Oklahoma. And when I say oil, I'm talking oil field, like pumps and whatever. And 2 days into that work, it was apparent that the refunds were going to be over $200,000, which meant we were going to get 100. And oh, that didn't go over well. And what's funny about our contingent fee deal, there's a guy, an owner, Life of Riley, his company has been printing money. And if I don't come along, how much money is he going to get out of that program? And the answer is nothing. I show up, and out of the clear blue sky, this dude gets over $100,000 and literally does next to nothing. But he bitches, and the reason he bitches is, it doesn't take all that long. I think I was there for a week and made $100,000. Well, he looks at that and goes, a week's worth of work, if you made $10,000, that's still a ton of money for a week's worth of work. And I'd say, yeah, you're right, it is. But if I don't come along, you don't have yours. We got into that a few times. They were always really big fees. And the objection was, you didn't spend much time on this. My attorney, Dan Smith, told me a little story about this issue. And I think it was the painter Renoir. And he was being sued by a person that he had agreed to do a commission for, prepare a work of art. And Renoir said the fee is, after it was done, X bazillion. And the guy said, I will never pay you. And Renoir said, due to this didn't take you any time. And Renoir said, you're not paying me for a work that took very few hours. You're paying me for the work of a life. And he won his case. All right, what's the baddest news about CFO services? Bipolar disorder forced me to sell. I did not want to be gone from CFO services, but I was wildly out of control. Chad was saying, we got to get you out of here or I'm leaving. I can't take it anymore. Pity, because that place was obviously a ton of fun for me and for several lucky employees, and it made a lot of people what to them were mega bucks, as you heard. And I could only imagine what it would be like if I had been there these last 15 years. But no use crying over spilled milk. It has become an interesting chapter in my memoir.